Well, hello there. You just dropped into episode number 155 of Drummer Daily. I am pumped you're here. I am pumped that I'm here. And I hope you're happy too. First things first, you might notice you might hear a little bit of a background noise kind of behind, kind of a droning sound behind this podcast. And that is because I actually have my space heater on right now. I don't know if I should be embarrassed or ashamed. It's to be clear, I'm recording this in September. It's not exactly cold weather, but this is right in the middle of when I'm in Nashville. So the remnants of Hurricane Irma have come through the Nashville area. And so it's been raining for the past couple of days. And the high today is only 64 degrees Fahrenheit, which to my little southern roots and heritage is a cold day. Actually, the reason why I have my space heater on is because the sun's not been out for a couple of days, and the way the sun moves across our house, normally the front of the house where my office is, kind of heats up by the end of the day, but that's not happening today. So I'm over here shivering, and it's like it's a winter day, and I've got my space heater on. My kids are, my kid is probably out, playing outside in his t-shirt or whatever, and I'm over here huddled up by a space heater. So anyway, that's what that noise is if you hear it. So today I got an email from a listener. I'm not going to use his name because it's pretty specific what he's asking about. But I got an email, and this question is what he's asking about is something that I have a lot of experience with, and I've definitely related with. And a few months ago, I did a couple of free master classes, and I kind of asked a question that described a similar situation, and asked everyone on the master class, do you relate? Is that something that sounds like something you go through? And I got so many people saying, yes, that sounds exactly like what I deal with as well. So I thought that I hadn't addressed it on the podcast yet, and got a question in an email that asked the same question. So I thought, hey, that's a good sign that I need to talk about this. So this email comes in, and I'm gonna edit parts of this out to make sure that it's like I said, I don't want to share. I told this person I wouldn't share his identity, but he says, I was hoping you'd be able to give me some advice. I've been playing drums since I was young. Roughly around 15 years now I've been playing drums. I've always wanted to pursue drumming as a career. And I don't see myself doing anything else, at least nothing that I would enjoy as much. My problem lies with managing my time. I've been married for a while and have a couple of kids. And I also have a full-time job as a support worker, although my shift pattern means I only work 3 days a week. I have found that on my days off, trying to find time to practice, plan videos and other content, whether it's for YouTube or other social media, plan recording and filming sessions, writing practice loops or backing tracks, all takes up so much time and energy, it almost feels like having a second full-time job. And of course, the other side is that it's even more of my time spent away from my family. I would really appreciate any advice on this. And so I read that email, and I was like, man, I definitely, in many ways, relate to exactly what this email is saying. And so I just wanted to share. First off, I want to say this. If you feel this way, if you're listening to this podcast and you feel that way, that you feel that you feel like the pursuit of a drumming career is just taking away from maybe your responsibilities in your family or financial responsibilities, or just even the fact that you want to spend time with your family or want to spend time with loved ones or friends, and this drumming thing is just taking time away from that. That's what this podcast episode is for you. So I've got a couple of kind of action points / bullet points to think about, and some things you can do if that's you. And the first thing I want to say is, part of this email, he says, I feel like it's a second full-time job. And so I kind of want to start there. I want to say this. For me, even now, I feel like even the pursuit of drumming should be a full-time job, or it should feel like a full-time job, or it should feel like a second full-time job. Now, what I don't believe in is That whole, they say, whatever, the definition of an insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. If you have been doing all of these things for years and years on end and nothing is changing, there's no progress being made, then it might be time to look for a change. But if you haven't been doing this for long, if you've been doing this for 6 months or a year or less, or even maybe a year to 2 years, and nothing has changed yet, that's not long enough to really know, as far as a music career goes, what kind of progress you're really making. Now, I believe, and I always have believed, in doing a lot of hard work and investing my time and energy and money in some cases up front, and putting all that work in up front and creating something for myself that then will benefit me for a long time to come. And a lot of the things that you mentioned, maybe doing videos on social media or practice time, planning content to put out online to promote what you do, things like that. A lot of those things are not things that I feel like once you really get the ball rolling with your career, you should be doing all of those things all of the time. But I do feel like many of those things can be valuable on the front end when you're trying to establish something, you're trying to build something up. So what I'm saying is this: I do believe that for a short time period, maybe it is a lot of work. Maybe you are sacrificing some other things that you'd like to be doing in order to make this thing happen. Recently, the drumming thing, I don't necessarily spend that much time. It's not a second full-time job now pursuing the drumming thing. I'm turning my space heater off. But I will say that I do feel like some of the other things I'm doing to serve drummers, that takes up the time of a full-time job. Does it take up that much time every day? No. But like I mentioned, I do believe in putting my time and effort into something on the front end that hopefully will pay off down the road. A perfect couple of examples of that are the time that I spent, I recently relaunched BoomClick Bootcamp, which, by the way, if you want to check that out, go to boomclick.net. But I spent time relaunching that. Now, during that period of time when I was working on getting that thing back up and running and getting everything put in place, ready to help people again and get people through that process, it was like a second full-time job during that month or 2 month period. And so there were a lot of really early mornings, a lot of late nights, not much sleep, not much fun being had by Daniel for that period of time. But once I got it all launched and running, I don't have to spend that much time on it anymore, and it's paying off. In the same way, I believe that you can pursue your drumming career that way, and you might be doing a lot of things now that you won't always have to do. So just keep that in mind, that if you're feeling the daily grind a little bit of the drumming thing, you may not have to keep doing all of those things for forever. So in some ways, it should feel like a second full-time job. So don't let just that feeling be enough to discourage you. But that said, I want to make sure that you don't assume that you need to do everything. You mentioned planning videos and other content, doing social media and YouTube, recording sessions, filming, writing practice loops, lots of things like that. You don't have to assume that you need to do all of that. You might be better served, especially if you're going to say, hey, you know what, I don't have the time to do all these things. You need to prioritize your efforts. Make a list, literally make a physical list of everything you could be doing, but then order it in order of where you think the most value is going to be coming from. I will tell you right now that I think the most value most drummers are going to get is going to be from recording themselves playing along with tracks or playing drums, even if it's with music like a drum cover video, but you playing in the context of a real song, not a 5-minute drum solo on top of some pop song or whatever, but actually playing something that's appropriate for a song the way you would if you were in a professional setting, not going crazy. I believe that that's going to get you the most impact as a drummer, and then the most good attention that you need will come from doing things like that. So maybe that's number one on your list, and you go down from there. And you decide, you know what, I'm only going to do one video a week, and I'm going to record it every Monday. And you then go and you discuss that with your family. And I know you mentioned, the person who wrote this email mentioned that you have a couple of kids that are under 2. So maybe you don't explain it to them yet quite with talking, but you will. But you say, hey, you know what? Monday at this time is my time to do this one thing. So that's the time I'm going to go do this thing. You mentioned that you have a shift job, which means that, or your shift pattern means you only really work 3 days a week and you're home 4 days a week. And I don't have that specific situation, but I do all of my work from my house. And my wife does too. And so our kid, now our kid is in school, but up until recently, he was not. And so he had a very unrealistic perception and expectation of how much time his parents should spend with him or can spend with him. We had to constantly remind him, and it was actually a good moment then when he finally realized that all of his friends' parents aren't home all day to play with him every day like we are. And so my kid not having that perspective actually shifted, and it carried over into me a little bit about my own expectations of how much time I should be available to spend with my family. Now, I'm not saying that spending time with my family is not important. But what I'm saying is I had developed, based on my own my own work situation, my own life situation, and maybe you have too, where you think that, I thought that I had to spend, because I was home 7 days a week, 24 hours a day basically, that I needed to be available to hang out and play all of that time. And that was unrealistic. There are some things that we just have to take a moment, take a break for just a little bit and do something else, do some other responsibilities that are outside of family. And our families will understand if we talk about it on the front end and let them know. So for me, I just want to challenge you, look at your time. If you really were to write out like a schedule, and I'm not saying you have to stick to it, but there's these things called, like a zero, I think it's called like a zero-based budget, where you budget out your money in a way that says, where is every dollar being spent? Do the same thing with your time, where you actually budget out all of your time a week in advance, and you say, I'm going to sleep this number of hours every night. On these days I'm working, but then I'm going to drive home from work this amount of time, drive to work, but all this other time is empty. I think if you do that, you'll find you have a lot more time available during the day than maybe it originally kind of seems like you do. So write out all that time and really look at it. And then again, the final thing I want to say on this topic is that to me, and I can tell for you as well, and I hope for if anyone else is listening to this, for you as well, family is still the most important thing. So I always prioritize my family, and I have learned that most of the time when my family is bummed out about me not being able to spend time with them, it's because they expected to be able to spend time with me, and I had not communicated to them that I was going to be doing something else. And I can prevent a lot of heartache with my family if I just say on the front end, hey, at this day and this time, or every week at this day at this time, I'm going to be doing this thing with drumming. And so I just want to let you know that on the front end. That prevents 90% of the hardship and the tough conversations just by communicating that up front. So maybe you can do that as well. And you might see that your family actually feels closer and more supportive in many ways just by doing that. Not that they're not supportive now, but that maybe you will feel more encouraged in your pursuit and the time you spend away working on your drumming if you have that conversation. So I hope that is some good advice for you and that helps you out a little bit. There's a lot going into this. I do want to say that you may not ever have full resolution of this. I think many times in life we pursue a finite answer to finalize something and decide something and just say, that's the answer to the question. I'm done with it. I don't have to think about it anymore. But real life is more complicated than that. There's not resolution to everything all the time. And many times we have to just keep dwelling and living in some of that tension that we have where we think, man, this is tough. And I don't know I have the perfect answer, but I'm going to keep working at it. I'm not going to give up. And that honestly has been the approach that I've taken for many things in my life, is that I don't always know the answer and I don't have a resolution or don't know how to fix it, but I can admit that it's tough and just keep putting my head down and keep on keeping on, not giving up. So I hope that encourages you. I hope that helps you. Thanks for joining me on the podcast. We'll talk again real soon. Bye for now.